Hello, everybody, and this is Group 3. We're going to be analyzing nature, extent, and treatment of the internal opposition to the Nazi state. First up is the Edelweiss Pirates.
The nature of the pirates was based around them basically wanting to be free, and they wanted to start to enjoy themselves. So they started forming their own gangs, not just around small parts or just locally. They were all over Germany, but mainly Western Germany. They didn't agree with the harsh punishment and other cruelties that other people face. These gangs went under different names, but they all saw themselves as the Edelweiss Pirates. Many of them wore a flower badge that was symbolized after the flower, the Edelweiss flower. Most of them who were part of the pirates were never a part of the Hitler Youth, or they left the Hitler Youth. Typically, they were teenagers who were around the age 14 or older. Uh, some were known to be younger than that, like 12 years old. And they mainly targeted the Hitler Youth. Uh, they basically just did the exact opposite of everything that the Hitler Youth did. So basically, the Hitler Youth separated boys and girls, and the pirates integrated the boys and girls. Hitler didn't allow traveling, hiking, or camping, and the Edelweiss did just those things. Like, they deliberately did those things on purpose and was blatantly disrespectful on purpose. They didn't care about upsetting Hitler, and they were completely opposed to Nazism. They wore clothes they weren't supposed to, and even graffitied the sides of buildings. While they weren't prettying up houses, they were just hanging out on the street corners, waiting for the next victim. They even would graffiti "Eternal War" on the Hitler Youth, the people that they attacked, to show their opposition, which I thought was pretty hysterical. Um, Also, later on, there are anti-Nazi leaflets uh, that came from the White Rose group, who was also opposed to Nazism or opposed to Hitler, so to say. Um, they would pick them up if they found them, or if they were dropped by their allies, the people who opposed Hitler. They would pick them up and go hang them up in different areas, and that's pretty much it.
Hey y'all, this is Black Goku, and I'll be covering how far the Pirates went into stopping Hitler. Alright, so between 1936 and September of 1939, the Nazi authorities didn't see the Edelweiss Pirates as a serious threat. However, that changed during World War II when authorities believed the pirates were responsible for gathering British anti-Nazi propaganda flyers, and they dropped them all around the Bomber Command at the start of the war and posted them through letterboxes. This was seen as being more than just an irritation. Now they have Nazi attention. And as time went on, a few grew even more bold and more heroic. They raided army military camps to obtain arms and explosives, and they made attacks on other Nazi figures other than the HJ, and took part in partisan activities. And the head of the Cologne Gestapo was one of the victims of the pirates. The authorities reacted with their full armory of repressive measures. These range from individual warnings, roundups, temporary detention, which would mean head shaving, weekend imprisonment, reform school, labor camp, youth concentration camp, criminal trial. Man, they did them dirty. Thousands were caught up in this hunt, and many of them died, really. And this is called the end of the Cologne Edelweiss Pirates. And they were publicly hanged in November 1944. But it wasn't all bad. Um, the pirates, they did the little thing. They They caused a stir in the Hitler's Youth movement, and they even had their own chant. You know, it went like this: Hitler's power may lay us low, keep us locked down in chains, but we will smash the chains one day. We'll be free again. We've got fists, we can fight. We've got knives, we'll get them out. We want freedom, don't we, boys? We're the fighting Navajos. Yeah, that was whack, but uh, yeah, and I can't sing. So that ain't help it either. Um, but we cool, we cool. Uh, yeah, that's it, really, for my part.
Analyzing nature, extent, and treatment of the White Rose's opposition to Nazi state. Nature. The White Rose, or Vest Rose, was an intellectual resistance group made up of a small group of friends who shared anti-Nazi views. The founder, Hans Skoll, and his friends were medical students at the University of Munich and wanted to overthrow Hitler and arouse the Germans. Members of the organization were very discreet in order to spread their beliefs and uncover Nazism for what it truly was. The White Rose was active for 9 months, starting June 1942 and ending February 1943. During this time, the organization engaged in a graffiti campaign at the University of Munich and created the 6 famous leaflets. The White Rose's headquarters was Munich, Germany, but targeted all of Germany when distributing leaflets. The organization also expanded to other areas such as Hamburg, Germany, Freiburg, Germany, Berlin, and Vienna, Germany. The White Rose opposed Hitler and his regime through these leaflets that described their personal feelings towards him as a leader and the Nazi ideology. The leaflets not only denounced Hitler and Nazism, but also put a spotlight on the extermination of Jews and the idea of German rebirth. The leaflets included quotations from great writers such as Goethe, Schlegel, Aristotle, and created images of a new Germany in the minds of citizens. Though their beliefs and actions were very dangerous, the White Rose believed it was their mission to bring Hitler's true aim and actions to light and hopefully arouse the citizens enough to create resistance and end Nazi domination. The White Rose tried to end Nazi domination through passive resistance, sabotage of Nazis' army, as well as through mending Germany's spirit.
The treatment on the White Rose group. Hans, Kurt, Alexander, Will, Christopher, and Sophie. On February 18, Haynes and Sophie dropped stacks of leaflets all over the university. On their way out, they realized they still had some copies remaining, which made them decide to go back and distribute the rest. When Sophie flung the remaining copies, Jacob, the janitor, reported Haynes and Sophie's actions to the police. They were then taken into Gestapo custody. Alexander overheard of the arrest and quickly went into hiding. They made wanted posters offering a reward for anyone who would turn him in. Hitler's reaction to the actions of the White Rose were swift and brutal. The members were given a short but intense trial in order to find out other members. The members were quickly sentenced to execution, as well as the members caught shortly after. Sophie's interrogation was so cruel that she appeared to court with a broken leg. Christopher then got arrested after the finding of a draft for a leaflet made by him, which was found in Haynes' pocket. After his arrest, Haynes, Sophie, and Christopher were sent to the People's Court in Berlin. Trial 1 on February 22, 1943. They were convicted to treason and sentenced to death. Haynes' last words were "Long live freedom." During their last few steps to execution, Christopher said, "We shall see each other again in a few minutes." Later that same year, Alexander was arrested after going into a bomb shelter during an air raid where a former girlfriend reported him. A few days later, Willie and 80 other people were arrested for being traitors. During the second trial on April 19, Kurt, Willie, and Alexander were sentenced to death. These three had to wait a long time for execution. They were finally executed on July 13, 1944, and Willie on October 12. Others who were involved were sentenced to prison. Kurt wrote a quote for his son when he was in prison, saying, "I died for Germany's freedom, for truth, and for honor. Faithfully I served these three into my very last heartbeat."
How far did the White Rose Group go to stop Hitler? Like Alyssa and Alex already covered, the White Rose Group were students from Munich University. They were active between June 1942 and February 1943. Between those times, they made 6 anti-war and Nazi leaflets. The White Rose distributed the leaflets by hand at the University of Munich and throughout Germany. They were left in telephone booths, mailed to students and professors, and carried to other universities. To write, print, and distribute the leaflets were very difficult and dangerous due to the constant patrol of the Gestapo police. So, like I already said, leaflets was one of the things they used to stop Hitler, and some of the leaflets explained how people could be passive resistance to the Nazi Party, meaning they didn't have to use violence or anything, they could use their voices to be heard. And I said too that the leaflets would be carried to other universities, and also they would be carried to other cities, and they would be carried to other universities and cities by females, because the Gestapo police didn't stop females or anything. They really didn't want it to notice. Another thing they did to stop the Nazi Party was they used graffiti. They would write things on the wall at Munich University that stated, "Freedom, down with Hitler, and Hitler the mass murderer." And lastly, another thing that he used to stop Hitler was they tried to lead the youth in a different direction, because they noticed that most of the youth was like more on Hitler's side than anything else, so they tried to change the youth mind. And also, I forgot to explain that in one of the leaflets it stated how Germany was such a state of dictatorship of evil. So overall, what I want you to get from how far did they go to stop Hitler is, I want you to know that they didn't use violence. They used passive resistance.